Ackerman, also known as FAS, and I will be going over the financial aid data and what we currently have in Redshift and just explain a few of the tables and fields and just some stuff that we do in financial aid. All right, so let's get going. A little bit about me. I don't know how to work this. Oh. Will it go away? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So a little bit about me. I've been in higher ed for about 22 years, 3 different schools or different places. Let's see here. I've been 20 years in financial aid. I spent 2 years in HR. I've worked at 3 different, well, technically 3 different universities or places, but one of the universities had like 4, one of the places had like 4 universities that they were running, so we did financial aid for those. But I've been here for 6 years at ASU, did 2 years in HR, and then I moved over to financial aid, or back to financial aid. I did financial aid. Financial aid has been my entire career. It took 2 years to do HR. I just wanted to do something different, and then I really missed financial aid, so I just came back into it. I did, 4 years here, 4 years with Tableau. A few of my guises that I've used throughout my term in my career are Sir Test-A-Lot, Mario Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm currently using the guise of the Data Dude. So also for my Thanos Glove of Skill Sets, this is whenever I want to snap my fingers and get stuff done. I use my project management skills. I have a certificate in that. Reporting SQL, because you have to have SQL, right? All my financial aid knowledge, Tableau, business analysis, and my blood type is B positive, so I consider that more of an attitude that it is in my blood. Okay. So that's a little bit about me. Mario in a minute. Also, I currently serve as the Business Analyst Community of Practice President. So a little plug for who we are and what we do. We just serve and do anything to help support and uplift the business analyst community. So if you're with us, if you know a BA, or if you're interested in becoming a BA, or you just want to know, we do put on some lunch and learns and a few things throughout the year, a few networking events as well. This one, we are putting on a lunch and learn series right now. So this is for our 5 BA perspectives, and this is coming up on the 19th. If you guys want to sign up for that webinar, you can feel free and scan that. So I'll give that another second, and then we'll just jump right into financial aid. Okay. So first thing about financial aid is we have aid-year versus term level. I know when you guys, or I'm not sure how you guys see it, but there are 2 different versions of how we structure data. And usually I see it as like you've got your student level and you've got your program level. But when it comes to financial aid, we get into just more aid year versus term. And aid year is our, just for an entire aid year. So right now we are starting the 26-27 aid year. They're filling out ICERs and FAFSAs right now. So we'll get that data to come in. That is for the start of next fall. So we haven't even started the actual fall part. So that's a full year away. And then from that fall, we go all the way around the clock again to the next fall, and about 2 months after that. That is a full aid year. That is a 2 years and about 3 months long aid year that we do. And then every term is just, it's a term, so maybe fall, spring, summer, start to end. But there is data that exists specifically on the aid year level only, and there's specific data that exists only on the term level. And there's stuff that exists on the term level that we'll push to an aid year and say, hey, this is the most recent status they have for the aid year, because it's the most recent term. So maybe we'll talk about that. Or probably will. So just understand that it exists on those 2 different levels, 2 different tiers. So if you're ever looking at tables, look for term versus aid year, and it'll kind of tell you, okay, this is an aid year table or this is a term table. In Redshift, I don't know if you've seen that, if you've been there already, but if you've seen financial aid, we have 3 schemas to rule them all. One is for financial aid, which is your basic information that you should be able to get without any kind of higher need. Restricted, we'll go into the tables, but the restricted one is more, it has just a little bit more sensitive information. And so we built this one. These two have existed for the past couple of years just to make sure we're not making sure that people can't get information that they shouldn't be. If they just need basic information for stats or whatever, they can use that. So we kind of split it out like that. Within the last year, within 2025, we had something go in called FAFSA simplification. And part of that is the ICER. When a student fills out the ICER, they have the ability to connect to the IRS to pull their tax information into the ICER. And all of that federal tax information, in case you're wondering what it stands for, those tables and every field associated with those tax fields has to go in a specific table in a specific or a view, and then be handled appropriately with security. The term GLBA comes to mind. I didn't put too much in around that, but the gist of it is you may not get access to this data. Some of you might get it, but you have to have a really, really, really good reason for why you're requesting this data from us. So you'll send in a request to join the group, and then just depending on your reasoning is whether you'll get that access or not. But just so you know, that is very, very sensitive information for that last one. Okay. So the first one, the financial aid. The financial aid schema itself has, when I went through the list of tables, here's what I saw that kind of stood out to me. So I'm just going to go down the list and kind of explain each of these, I guess. First one, we have attributes. So I saw two attribute tables that were out there, one of them being like this attribute table, which is more of a registrar level I would use it as, just because it has your admit type, your residency, and your career. We do use another attribute called student aid attribute, and that has more of your Pell eligibility. It's got your SAP for the year, verification status. A lot of ICER matches, because we get a lot of, did the student match DOD? Did they match selective service? Did they match all these things? All of that kind of exists on this table. It's not, like I said, it's not the FTI, it's not the tax information, but just the basic information of what the student fills out on the FAFSA. Okay. So we use this all the time, like our first-time freshmen, continuing students, they all get those admit types, and then we use those when we do our packaging process. Okay. So, yeah, I use these a lot. Any questions on this one? Okay. Next, checklists. Checklists exist on an aid-year and a term level. Let me see. So these are all aid-year level. These checklists exist on an aid-year and a term level. So we have term-based checklists that are specific just for the term, and then aid-year-based checklists that we use for like verification and what forth. Checklists are the way that we communicate forms to the students. So we'll create a checklist in PeopleSoft that my ASU can pick up. And based on this crosswalk, this is what my ASU might see for as far as like links to forms. So each of these checklists that's opened, my ASU will have a link. You click on the link, it takes you to a form for the student to fill out. When that student fills out that checklist, it comes back into PeopleSoft and goes to one of our work lists. I'll get into that. But this is our aid-year based checklist and our term-based checklist. And this is kind of a intermediary kind of table in between tables. I don't use it that much because they have a really good views built for us. So I use these two just for AY and then one for term. But the purpose of that is for checklists is to create those forms and create something that somebody can see on my ASU, or we can use checklists to drive other components or other business processes. As part of that, I will show you here is our Tableau by checklist. So you can see that we have our checklist code, as usually drives it, then followed by checklist item. So multiple items can exist within the same code. And then we've got our different statuses. So canceled, completed, initiated. Usually we'll send it out initiated. We'll get it back completed. We might get a received or returned status for stuff that's coming back in, or notified if it's getting near expired, waived if they no longer need it. But this is all of our checklists by status. And then you can see we have our aid-year based ones, and then some of them will have term-based. I just didn't scroll enough to see that population. That's for you, Sam. Next, I guess any questions on checklists?
What's the difference between paid off and received?
I don't know. Paid off is one that I bet if I look through, I probably see one or two. It's just bad data. Somebody updated it. They shouldn't have. You know, when you see everything and you see this one outlier of a piece of data that someone used, and you're like, you know what, I just want to go in there and just fix it. But that I would say is, I don't know. Received means just that the form came back and it just is received. So yeah, once they fill it out, it comes back. There's a process that flips it to received. Anything else? Yeah. That one is the most recent status, but there is a checklist history table out there in PeopleSoft. So if you're in the habit of finding PeopleSoft tables and asking them to push over to Redshift for you. But there is a history table for that. And it'll give you the date, the previous value, and the new value. Okay. Anything else, anyone? Okay. Next, we have our cohorts. Cohorts is a process in PeopleSoft that we use for awarding. So are you guys familiar with NAMU and Promise? So those are cohorts, or more specifically cohort hierarchies or airs. And then we have a cohort underneath that. So an example that we use this for is our NAMU students, Promise, Transfer Achievement. There's a few others, but those are kind of deprecating out. And then I see two tables that are out there. One of them is a student level table, and then one of them is like a start year, is how I say it. So it's really awkward. It took me a while to kind of be like, oh, hey, now this makes sense. So we have these two tables that are out there, and let me show you how we kind of use them. So this is our cohorts, like students per cohort. And so that starting year, this is the SYR data. That's what I call like starting year. I really don't know if it means that. But for 27, we just started NAMU. So you can see that we have 564, all these students are starting for 27, okay? So just because they started doesn't mean every time you start in the program, you kind of get caught up in the program. You can either keep going. You've got like 8 periods to kind of figure out how you're going to handle that. So it is 8 year, but based on their start. So people who are starting in 23 are like, there's a few left to people who started in 23 based on people who started in 26. So this is, it made more sense when I was doing this last night. But you have current aid year and how this is applying for current year, but these students might only be students who have started along the way, right? So these might be 26 for now, but they're also like our continuing, our renew. We've got the time that the new students come in and they get a new award, but then they have like renew criteria. Did they make that criteria? If not, then they kind of get skipped into the next term and say, okay, now the next term, did they meet criteria that now they can become eligible for their grants again. But this is how that kind of setup is done when you've got your, so you've got your hierarchy, but then these are all the cohorts within that hierarchy. So all of this is just NAMU. Okay, so if I flip this to Promise, then I would get a whole other set of cohorts in for Promise, or cohort. So one hierarchy, and they have multiple cohorts within it. And then based on that one, we can give them item types. We can give them item types, or just draw out eligibility criteria that says, oh, you need to meet this, this, and this. One of the biggest changes was like our FTI data, the PhysApp total data, is that we're using that for eligibility criteria now. So that kind of changed up a little bit, but
Yeah.
yes.
So I know you defined cohort a little bit earlier. So when you say cohort, because there's so many different ways we use cohort.
Yeah.
Oh, I could talk to you.
I just
So,
want this.
so when we say cohort in this case, we're just talking about all of the students at a point in time that's using this particular financial aid item, or
It's a group of students that are eligible for a specific financial aid program. So
so it's not the cohort that's on student academic term or whatever.
yeah, you would never.
Yeah, this is for you, Josh, because I know you're cringing at the word cohort.
Yeah, I don't relate this might relate to the awards. You might see some item types, but the item types themselves will be named something weird, and you'll be like, what? How do I relate this? Actually, though, NAMU does have specific item types, so. Oh, no. One of these has like an item type in it that, depending on the cohorts, because like I said, some cohorts are set up to use the item type, some are not. So you might look at a cohort and be like, oh, this has an item type, yay! But you look at all the other cohorts and you're like, why is this inconsistent data for? Staring at you, Josh. That's just how that goes. I do have some requirements pages though, so we've been doing it a lot better in documentation of our evaluations, like putting all that in Confluence. So if you have questions on that one, we've been doing the documentation as we've been doing the 27 year. I can pass that along. So it really does help explain it because NAMU uses item types, Promise uses evaluation, Transfer Achievement uses this other table that goes to this other page that kind of swings there and back. So it just depends on, every cohort has a different kind of evaluation status. And so we just have to, I don't know, it's ASU, we work with it, right? Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then I saw a bunch of other names on there that weren't familiar to me. So is that because what counts as a NAMU is expanding? Or are things?
They might be covered by other things also. Look at your starting year. So programs that applied in the past might not be applying in 27. Okay, so that's how you can kind of see, oh, hey, we have some stuff here, like we've got president provost, but we no longer have, scholarship, SMP, right, university transfer, WUI went away. So I would probably just use that to say, okay, if they don't exist in this new SYR one, then that's how you can tell. These are the active cohorts for the new year. And then some of these other cohorts, they kind of have to fizzle out. So then you get this fizzling reduction or fizzling reduction this way. Because hopefully all these students are finishing their graduation and all that. So, yeah. Any other questions? Cohorts? Yeah. Next, corporate partners. How many of you are familiar with corporate partners? All right. So I think of the term Starbucks. If I show you a dashboard, I think they're about 25% of population. I won't say what, but yeah, it's Uber. Okay. So we have a lot of different corporate partners. Starbucks is our the one we have to kind of, I don't know, cater to, if you will, or at least be very mindful of them. Oh, come on. Okay, so corporate partners. So we have to administer these programs where students work for different agencies, be it Uber, Starbucks, Amarak. There's a couple others out there. And what we do is, verify their eligibility, not only that they work at the place, but we have to ingest that data, find out what the eligibility of that corporate partner would be. So if we partner with someone and they say, oh, you know what, I'm only going to pay for students' tuition and fees or a portion of tuition and fees, but they have to meet X, Y, Z. So we put up X, Y, Z per corporate partner, I believe in their plan or the table, one of those. So these are our setup pages, setup ones where we can say, what are the eligibility criteria? What are the award criteria? What is the award per term? Are they eligible? Are they not eligible? All of that gets kind of set up and ingested during the week for that. And then we can go, okay, we have their item type that they would get. And then just depending, because sometimes that's an automatic scholarship and sometimes that needs to come in, like we do packaging plans and then post-packaging processes. So it's just a huge ETL circle, if you will. But we manage it through our setup pages. That's where we define our eligibility. And then we push all of that into our DSP. Okay. Questions on corporate partners? Okay. Next is DSP. This is our distributed scholarship portal. This exists within PeopleSoft. It is just a tool that we use to manage our scholarship system. So be it if a student has a cohort, a corporate partner, if they've got some other scholarship from, what is that, underwater basket weaving scholarship. You can check that off the bucket list to use that term. Then that would go under this tool called DSP. DSP has these two tables that I see for DSP term and effective date. This tells you what term that award is for, the item type, and the effective date. So you can essentially say, hey, this student got a new item type, they got something new that impacted their DSP, but I did not see award amounts. So there is another table that has award amounts, but this one will at least give you the DSP item type, plus if the award is locked, or let's just say we made a change, so we have a new effective date. You can probably use those effective dates to get some kind of metric out of it. But I just noticed when I looked at those, I did not see the award amount. So if you do use these in some capacity, it does give you an item type that you could connect into the award tables. Okay, but this helps us administer most of our non-federal awards, and that exists, yeah, just in PeopleSoft. And then we import, I think we have Scholarship Universe. If you guys have heard of that, everything done in Scholarship Universe gets imported in a file and gets pushed to DSP. Next, item types. Item types is just a whole lot of setup. We've got our regular item type supplemental, where we give it different tags, cost centers, like this item type belongs to a certain one that we know at least how to pull that money out of. So there's a lot of back end stuff. There's also tags. You can tag an item type as well. And then there's a few other item type pieces. This is item type reserve. So this is the amount that item type would have to draw from. So every time we award money, we have buckets. Every item type has a bucket of money that we can spend. Once we're out of that bucket of money, we don't award it. So that's our reserve bucket. We actually have two reserve buckets. We have like a vanilla one from PeopleSoft, and then we have one from like a Workday that actually connects in. So this is our this one should be feeding into our PeopleSoft vanilla. Okay. I know we have item type supplemental, which gives us our tags and some other like cost center pieces. I did not check on those two. And then this is our disp rule item. So for every item type that exists, you can actually attach an edit message, a UEM, and I'll get into that in a minute. You can tie that to the item type. It says if this student has this UEM with this item type, don't disperse, just hold on to them, okay? So this is kind of our table that does that. I just wanted to group that together so you could at least know, okay, this one relates to UEMs, but it also is tied to the item type if you needed that for any reason. Okay. Questions on item types? Yes.
A lot of queries that have types as part of the logic, and I always have a little bit of a worry that there's been like a new item type added or something like that. Do any of these tables help us figure out new item types so that we can see those?
Yes and no. The funny thing about PeopleSoft is effective dating. Some of the vanilla effective dating within PeopleSoft has to be put as like a 1/1 of 1900. And so when we get in new item types, we get them, we'll create them, but that effective date now looks so far back, you're like, eh. So yes and no. We are working with Zeta. I think she works in ET at some point. So there is an item type provisioning thing coming in right now where they are creating the automation of creating those item types. So there should be a record because they're creating it. You have to approve it. So all of that should be on some database now for when they approved it, when it got created. So yeah, we're just moving forward, and that's I would chase that down. Shanakia and Zeta Jimenez. I just think she's working on that. So hopefully going forward it would work. Guess how many item types we have? That are thousands, like 6,000, I think. Yeah.
Just statements on the attribute and where identified to your
For the item type in the college?
Correct. It's a sequel. When you're in the table, like,
Yeah.
you know how many values
hmm
show up for an attribute.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
Just do distinct, select distinct item type or whatever the attribute is from the table where college equals.
Yeah,
Is there
Okay.
connective?
I don't know of the connecting between the college and the item type, so I'd have to see that.
Is there an active flag?
Yes, so item types do have active and inactive. In fact, we try to do if we have not created it in the last 6 years and we have not we have not used that award in the last 6 years and it has not been created in the last 6 years, then we inactivate those. Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Okay. No, you're fine. You've got me like thinking like, oh, where is this? So now I gotta mark that and go check it tonight. All right, anything else on item types? Yeah, we have so many item types. They're just coming in left and right.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So when you add this little item.
Yeah.
That's where you find like how those item types are applied to the students. So like if I had an item type in the College of Engineering that I know gets applied to all of our incoming new students,
hmm
could I use the disbursement rule item table to find out how that's like?
No, this would be like if they were, you could use this to say, are they being held? So is my student has an award, do they have a disbursement hold on them? But they should be able to see this because once it's in here and it exists, that UEM should exist on my ASU. Okay. But there is, yeah, I would say like if you're gonna do that, then I would like go use awards and then like tie into awards if you wanted to see how, if you're curious on awards or disbursements or we'd have to elaborate.
I'll circle back
Okay.
later some numbers.
Next one, participation verification. This is, we need, as financial aid has to make sure that students are attending their courses if they're going to be getting money. If they don't attend their courses, they don't get the money. The attendance that they do put out there drives on how much of their course they have completed, which then drives, how much of it, can they keep their money? Do we have to refund that money? So we have to keep track of that. We do have that on a course level. So it comes in, we do get in through, I think, Canvas activities, but we don't have the ability to technology track everybody out there, right? So we have these things called surveys that we put out. So this is a course level participation verification for every course that's out there. It will have a PV date on it, which is the deadline of when we need to see verification. So once 21 days hits or 20 days hits, they have to have attendance. You don't have attendance in that one, we're going to return your money and sorry, try next term. So this is part of doing that work. We're tracking it through the classes. We send out surveys, and then we keep track, did they complete that survey or not, and then we import that into our enrollment activity. Okay. This one's kind of weird though, because it gives you students have been known to just disappear off of this because the view has a date. Once we're past the specific date for it to even be due, I think it just drops right off. It should have it, but it's not. So we're chasing down some fixes for that table, just to see how that was engineered. Okay. Any questions about participation? Look at the time. What's the time? Oh, all right, we're fine. We are fine. Next, work lists. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of work lists. It is a bolt-on product to PeopleSoft that helps us manage all of our manual exceptions. We try to automate as much of financial aid process as we can, but there are certain scenarios the student might hit where we have to do just manual intervention, or hey, you know what, the system can't automate to this level, so we can automate to here. Let's just put everyone else on a work list and serve the student through that manner. We've got 4 tables that I see out there. One of them is the work list queue. This is our work list queue. So this is actually what's in our work list, if it's open, resolved, pending, and what for. So this is our student level one. It exists not only on aid year and it can exist on an aid year or a term level, just depending how we do setup. So this is our work list setup table. We can associate work lists with whatever checklists and communications. The reason behind that is if we associate all those checklists that we did earlier for verification, you know, when we send out the ICER, we send like 20, 30 forms that we send out. It's probably 100. So we associate those checklists and those communications with the work list. So when they come in, the data will see, oh, you know what, this checklist or this communication belongs to this work list. I'm going to push them into that. So that's what those tables are used for. This is more just all three of these are just setup based. Okay, and then this is where it all takes action. And this is what our
Yeah. So does that stuff use historical data, or is that similar to what's as opposed to students' profile?
it is historical. So we do have claimed, we do have completed, we do get to run all kinds of lovely stats. In fact, here is our Tableau for our work list. They are organized by category. So we might have counseling, R2T4, verification, whatnot. And then we have our work list, right? We have a work list code and name. And then I've kind of built out, like, what's the query that builds out this work list? It's set up for the aid year. This one, we have the term flag set as Y, meaning that when we run this, we want to run it on a term level and make sure that we're working students on that term level versus the aid year level, okay? So we do have a lot of work, way more work lists than this. And then these are our different ones. So claimed is when you know, a counselor just is claiming that student, they can't really do anything with them yet, so they just claim them so that they can work them, that no one else can do it. Because you ever try to work off a spreadsheet with two people picking the same student at the same time? So it's kind of a resolution to that. In fact, I would say I've worked at all the different schools that I've worked at. Work list bolt-on has been, it's beautiful. It's stopped from the let's work on a spreadsheet for the past 20 years that I've seen. This takes care of all of that. And I don't know, I just think it's beautiful. I just wanted to point it out because being everywhere else, I'm like, oh, and this, I'm like, this is beautiful. We don't ever want to move away from this. Completed means they did something they had to do and they did it. They could be holding this file for paperwork and email to a student or whatever. Pending, so that just means that the student got on there. Removed, this is an awesome one. This means that for some reason the student ended up on the work list, but now through our automation query, they're no longer on the query. So they no longer fit the scenario. We don't need to work them anymore. So we don't really do anything, but we remove them. So this is automation closing them out, okay? Just because they no longer fit. All right, questions on work lists? Next, financial aid awards. I saw 4 tables out there for awards. This is our normal award table. Aid year, it's aid year based. So you'll just get, let's see here. Yeah, you'll get every award, but on the aid year, because you get, every award has like two disbursements, one for fall, one for spring. And you'll get one row that just tells you for fall and spring, this is their offered amount, accepted amount, dispersed amount, okay? So that only exists on the aid year level. Period, this has a little bit more information for the period, which is standard term versus non-standard. And what that means is fall and spring are kind of our standard terms. Okay, so you'll have one row for a standard term, which is really just one row for fall and spring and one row for summer, okay? And that'll be like award period equals A for academic and then N for non-standard. And non-standard is our summer. So if you're ever trying to pull data for just summer, saying, yeah, I need to pull financial aid data for summer, like budget information, award or whatever, or just student aggregated to that specific period, then I would use this one. Okay. Student award period, is that one at least lock you down to just summer. Student award activity, that's probably one of the biggest tables out there. And that has every time we do anything, if we validate, post, if we award, if we change by $1, if we authorize it, if the student accepts it, it gets a row inserted into there. If we authorize it, if we disperse it, that's 2 different rows. So every single action to the award itself, including offers, changes, accepted, authorized, dispersed, right? All of those get recorded as a row with a date timestamp and all that. This makes it fun though, because sometimes you'll have to do we do it like an action time as the max action time, but you also want to be mindful that you're going through so many rows. Do I want to pull the max effective date of what's there, or do I want to pull the max effective date of all the offered accepts, or of all the disbursements, or of all the authorizations? So just be mindful when you're kind of querying that data. And then student award disbursement level, that's pretty much your awards, but on a disbursement level. So this will give you the term. This will give you the term, and then what that award amount is on a term level. So if you're ever trying to pull it from, just, hey, show me all my data for this term, that's what I would use. Okay. Questions on awards? Next, user edit messages, or UEMs. We use UEMs for a couple reasons. Sometimes it's just to mark a student so we can process them for something. We use them for packaging and making sure that we have everything we need for packaging. We do it also for disbursement. So there's a thing in there called type. Type equals I versus E. And I is information, meaning this UEM really does nothing except it's an informational record on the student. If we've set it to error, then PeopleSoft has all these extra little nuances in there that says, hey, this exists, it's an error, hold their disbursements. You know, is it tied to, you can actually track, is it tied to this item, or do we have it as like a global UEM? Meaning if this UEM is set up as a global UEM, it will hold for everyone regardless. I don't have to do any sub setup. Assigned on a term level. So these are given on a term level. We do use them as an aid year, but we assign it in the fall term as the aid year level, and hit a little nuances with that one, so we're trying to figure that out. But these are the two pieces that I saw: edit message table, which is the actual setup page for it, and then student FA messages. Okay. Yes.
When we have that global audit or whatever happened, like at the beginning of the term with financial aid,
Yeah.
would we be able to go to this table and see what the error was, or is that not the?
No. I'm trying to think which error. Which one? Well,
Well, like a lot of students are impacted because their financial aid package was wrong, something happened.
FA term.
Yeah,
FA term.
FA term is what we use.
So FA term, sometimes FA term, if it goes down, FA term is kind of the very first part. It's where we have all of our registrar data, like courses, credits, weeks, am I going full-time, half-time, right? All of that information we use to award. And that gets fed and built into from like enrollment activity or from other stuff, right? Registrar data. Sometimes if the process errors in the middle of building, we might not see that. And what happens is we'll get an error. Sometimes it'll reset all of the students to 0. And so we've seen that a couple times where, oh, it reset everyone to 0, then budgets ran. It reset everyone to 0. Then we ran to awards, and I said, oh, you have no units, you're not even attending college. What am I gonna do to your awards? Back down to 0. So, yeah. That was our one, like we were having a really perfect term. When that hit, I was like, oh, I don't like the marks, I don't like the dark marks on my terms, so, yeah. I'm aiming for the perfect term, if you will. So if you ever, that's every term I'm trying for it. So when something like that happens, it's next time. Anything else? Error messages, disbursement holds. This is our dashboard for UEMs. So you can see that we have our information ones. So we've got like our MRR, our PAC. So this is, does the student have everything that they need to be packaged? You know, are they meeting SEP? Are they missing any budgeted components? No open packaging checklist. So we actually have UEMs to check for those other little nuances like checklists and other stuff. Then these are our disbursement holds themselves. And then you can see they mostly exist in just a pending or resolved status. And then most of the time this is our 8 years. So they are term-based, so I didn't put that on a term level, but as you can see, we just wanted to show you some numbers on how we use those per year. Okay. Questions, comments? This is kind of the standard setup on the naming schema, if you will. Yes. Say it again.
For identifying who might have reached their program limit or loan limit. I see those are both.
Their loan limits, like their aggregate limits? No. You might be able to check this annual loan limits one. Program limit? What do you mean? Like the Pell Grant? Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, because you can only get up to 600% of Pell throughout the time, so. I am not 100% sure, but if you ever ask, I will gladly tell you, like, we do have a Confluence page and we do need to document each one of these. So we'll add it to that list. But there is something else. Funny you mentioned that. FA term. So I kind of talked about FA term. This is where we get everything from registrar data that kind of feeds into the student's package. FA load, credits, weeks, housing status, academic level. So we need all that information to even build a budget and then to award. Okay. Now there is. Hold on. Okay, there we go. There's. I'm going to get to you. Next, any questions on FA term? No. Well, we did build a dashboard out for this one to at least give us an average. So hopefully I will get it to where it can send us an email if the morning comes and they're like, oh, hey, just so you know, your average is like 0 for all your students. So go check that out. So we do have term and term history. There is a view, there's a specific view that because we started archiving old student data from FA term for years prior, and we archived, we kept the top row and just archived the rest out, okay? But there is a specific FA term view that we can probably do some table replacements for in the future. Okay. Next, budgets. This is budgets drive our cost of attendance, and so we'll get we have to come up with a cost of attendance for every student, so that not only does it cover tuition, but you got to think of the cost of room, of board, of supplies, transportation. Everything that happens in that regard throughout the year has to be calculated out and given to the student or built out as, hey, here's the cost it takes for you to go to college based on where you live and all these numbers, right? Price of gas. And so that information from FA term feeds into here. We'll build these out. And then this is our budget. Well, yeah, kind of our budgets. Exactly our budgets, actually. So these are the item types. So this is our room and board, or board, room. We have plus fees. And then just depending on where you're at, depends on the budget item itself, but they're all grouped under the same category. And you get awarded per term. On the term level, their category, everyone should be having a different one. If you don't have like plus fees, you shouldn't see those. So only students with plus awards should see plus fees, but sometimes we have to put the cart before the horse and say, okay, we're gonna anticipate you're getting fees, and then we're gonna go see what you get, and then we're gonna redo your budget, and then see how that kind of feeds back into each other. Hopefully you don't get into this cycle loop where you're just taking fees off and reducing your award forever. But these are everything that goes into a budget. Some things are campus-based, some things are so, like cost of books, we could just apply it for grad books, law books, undergrad. But board, housing and board, food cost different at all the different campuses, so we have to do different budgets per campus, different items. Okay?
Are we going to be moving the med school information? Like, how do you think that's going to impact this budget piece?
It's the same. It's just the same setup.
Will it have additional items, like, for example, med school fees?
As far as I know, some of those, a lot of the stuff that's been brought up is fitting into tuition. So there's some licensure fees, or I'd have to look at my Confluence page. But every time that question's been brought up, it just feeds into the tuition, and so that should be part of the tuition, and we don't have to include it in our normal 7 components. Okay. Great question though on the medical side. Yeah, medical should match more like grad and law, besides a few other things. So we're trying to use that to look to standardize where we can. Yes. Yep, every single one of these items for the term rolls up into a cost of attendance. Yeah, so that is impacted by residency, weeks, and credits. Okay, if they reduce credits, weeks, or change campus, it could impact any of those. Or they would have to be, essentially be kind of rebudgeted into what that new one is. And then it could impact their awards, it could not. I would say that if a student, just so you're aware, so if a student went and got budgeted, they got an award, but now they have a different budget, but now their cost of attendance is much higher. They have to proactively reach out to us and say, hey, I need more money to meet that cost of attendance. We package on a projected, like full-time, and then online is half-time, but we award on that projection that they're going to do that. And so we start at the very top, and then depending on what they do before they start classes and where they're at the time of term start, then we repackage and we say, okay, we've done your budget based on what you're really attending, no more projections. And then now we can repackage, meaning we just reduce their funds down to match their cost of attendance, if it needs to happen. Okay? That's right, yes. Yeah.
Do refunds, how does that calculate? So like students get refund checks based off of an overestimation of their,
Yeah, so like we only charge tuition, right? So you've got tuition charges on there, but then you've got this room and board and all this other stuff. So when you get a check or when all the money pays out, it pays your tuition, and then everything left after that for that term, because we disperse on a term level, everything left after that goes to a refund. It goes back to the student unless they've said, hey, I want to apply this for future charges, and the other accounting stuff for that. But that's not typically what happens. So that's what all that extra money is for, like the food, the board, the supplies. That covers enough for that excess funds check, hopefully. So, cool. All right, anything else? Okay. Next, financial aid restricted. This has some ICER data in it that is not FTI related. I did notice this has our aggregate data for NSLDS, so I did see something very specific to just combined aggregates. I want to just pull it up. So let's get your like combined aggregates, NSLDS aggregates, subsidized aggregates, unsubsidized aggregates, all this different stuff. And so if you need help organizing that, let me know, dude. That's fun. But that does exist on there. And that's just the student's National Student Loan Data System. So that is a record of the student's borrowing history. So all of their student loans, all their Perkins loans, Pell Grant is on there as well. So we just get this long, really long file in that says, hey, here's everything that they've borrowed in their entire life. Here's where their aggregates are. And then depending on their aggregates, depends on how much more money they can get, depending are they undergrad, grad, law, medical, what have you, depends how much more money they can get. Okay? So that, very personal information, so it's kept in the restricted. And then R2T4 data, same thing. It's funny, we use this term refund, and I know here refund means that the student gets money from after they get paid out. So there's this thing called R2T4 that's been used as refunds in the past for me. So I'm going to say R2T4 data, which is return of Title IV aid. So when a student doesn't finish their courses, they come for 2 days and they're like, never mind. They will drop all their money. They don't get to keep their money. In fact, it gets returned to the government, right? And so R2T4 is more of a, hey, here's the federal aid that you got that you said you were going to attend, so we're giving you all this federal aid, but now you have to just be accountable to that federal aid and say, okay, now we're going to just take this back, put it back because you're only eligible for X amount. You're either eligible for nothing, or you're eligible for a small portion of it, or you're done just enough to keep the whole thing. Yeah, but all of that data, all that calculation from when you started to when you end, how much money you got, all that data exists on that table within the restricted site. Okay. Next, FTI, federal tax information. It exists on 4 different tables out there. Just if you need it, you need it. I mean, request it. We have a really good reason because I know my team will request a really good reason for needing that data. I know Michael's over GLBA and he will not let anything slide. So, okay. Just putting this out there. I did build out a translate value Tableau. So if you ever need this, this is out in our Tableau site. or Tableau translate values. So I use this all the time to do either my filters or just look it up because I'm really tired of querying what checklist item status means. So I built this so I can just filter by on whatever it is, and that's out there. Okay. So I do have I do have another community one that's our process monitor. So keep a lookout. You can look in the demo site or in Tableau, but there is a process monitor Tableau that I built out where you can see like a Gantt chart of what the process is. I don't know if you have a Percy process on your team, but it tells you everything that Percy did in the last 7 days, the last 60 days. And then I did a breakdown for Kubus, Kubu2s, and here. What time is it? Oh, we got 2 minutes. I just wanted to put this out there. So how many of you guys are in a team that uses a Percy Safa, Percy something, 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 something? So we have automated users that run a lot of processes. So I built this so we could see every single day what happens for what operator, what run control they were using. And then also I call this my schematic of how PeopleSoft is for all my setup. So like for my Kubus, this kind of tells you the name of the Kubu, what query is being run, and what's actually happening in there. So you can see like we're realigning certain program plans for this. So I'm involved in like this, trying to map out business processes across ASU. And so they kind of built this as a schematic to kind of help me hunt down certain questions. So if you use any of these, you can totally see what's out there, what queries are run for pushing stuff through. This one was more important to me is the checklist. How many people are using checklists or who is creating what checklist, and then how many processes are doing it. And then same thing for student groups. So I wanted to track down who's creating what student groups. And so based on how their Kubus are set up, I built this piece out as well. So again, if you need it, this is just out there. It's in the demo site. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you attending. And thank you.